Good evening, and thank you for joining me, those that have chosen to do so. I realized after last night's recording I had committed an egregious error. I did not say the name of the book I was reading from, and I need to do that. This book that I'm reading from for the next several nights is The Original Adventures of Hank the Cowdog, written by the esteemed author John R. Erickson. Mr. Erickson was just this past year inducted to the Texas Literary Hall of Fame. Quite a man, and it's an honor for me to be reading his book to you. So without further ado, Chapter 2, Quills Just a Part of the Job. It was kind of a short fight. Coming down, I'd seen them quills aimed up at me, and I tried to change course. Too late. I didn't move so good in midair. I lit right in the middle of him, and bam, he slapped me across the nose with his tail. Sure did hurt, too. Brought tears to my eyes. I hollered for Drover to launch the second wave, but he had just disappeared. Porcupine took another shot at me, but I dodged. I tore up half an acre of brush and got the heck out of there as I limped back to the house on pin-cushioned feet. My thoughts went back to the murder scene and the evidence I'd committed to memory. It was clear now the porcupine had nothing to do with it all. Porcupines don't eat anything but trees. Drover had found the first set of tracks he had come to and started hollering about coyotes. I'd been duped into believing the runt. Yes, it was all clear. I had no leads. No clues, no idea who killed the hen. What I did have was a face full of porcupine quills, as well as several in my paws. I limped to the yard gate. As you might expect, Drover was nowhere near to be seen in sight. I sat down beside the gate and waited for Loper to come out and remove the quills. A lot of dogs would have set up a howl and a moan, but not me. I figured that when a dog got to be head of ranch security, he ought to be able to stand some pain. It just went with the territory. So I waited, and Loper didn't come out. Them quills were beginning to hurt. The end of my nose throbbed and felt like a balloon, made me awful restless, but I didn't whine or howl. Now, Pete the barn cat came along just then, had his tail stuck straight up in the air and was rubbing against the fence, coming my way. He had his usual dumb cat expression, and I could hear him purring. He came closer, and I glared at him. "Scram, cat!" He stopped, arched his back, rubbed up against the fence. "What's that in your face?" "Nothing you need to know about." He rubbed and purred, then reached up and sharpened his claws on a post. "You sure look funny with all those things sticking out of your nose." "You're gonna look funny if you don't run along and mind your own business. I'm not in the mood to take any your trash right now." He grinned and kept coming, started rubbing against my leg. I decided to ignore him. Look the other way, pretend he wasn't there. Sometimes that's the best way to handle a cat. Let him know you won't allow him to get you stirred up. You have to be firm with cats. Give them the slightest encouragement, and they'll just move in and take right over. Pete rubbed and purred. I ignored him. Told myself he wasn't there. Then he brought that tail up and flicked against the end of my nose. I curled my lip and growled. He looked up at me and did it again. It tickled my nose, made my eyes water. I had to sneeze. I tried to fight it back, but I couldn't hold it. I gave a big sneeze, and them quills sent fire shooting through my nose. Kind of inflamed me, don't you see? And all at once, I lost my temper. I made a snap at him, but he was gone. Over the fence and into Sally Mae's yard, which is sort of off limits to us dogs, even though Pete can come and go as he pleases, which ain't fair. With the fence between us, Pete knew he was safe. He throwed a hump in his back and hissed, and What was I supposed to do then? Sing him a lullaby? You talk about the weather? No, sir, I barked. I barked hard and loud, just to let that cat know he couldn't get me stirred up. The door opened and Loper stepped out on the porch. He was wearing jeans and an undershirt, no hat, no boots. He had a cup of coffee in his hand. "Hank, leave the cat alone." I stopped and I stared at him. "Leave the cat alone?" Pete grinned and walked off, purring and switching the tip of his tail back and forth. I could have killed him. I whined and wagged my tail and went over to the gate where Loper could see my nose. He looked up at the sky, took another drink of his coffee, swatted a mosquito on his arm, looked at the clouds again. I whined louder and jumped on the gate so that he couldn't miss seeing that old Hank, his loyal friend and protector of the ranch, had wounded in the line of duty. "Don't jump on the gate." He yawned and went back in the house. 20 minutes later, he came out again, dressed for the day's work. I was patient and waited patiently. My nose was really pounding by then, but I didn't complain. And when he came out of the gate, I jumped up to greet him. "Know what, Hank? You stink. Have you been in a sewer again?" And he walked on down the corral, didn't see the quills in my nose or nothing. At last, he saw 'em. We were down at the corral. He shook his head and muttered, "Hank, when are you going to learn about porcupines? How many times do I have to tell you you have to go through this? Drover never gets quills in his nose." Well, Drover was a little chicken, and Loper didn't understand. Nobody understood. He got a pair of fencing pliers out of the saddle shed, threw a leg lock on me, started pulling. It hurt. Oh, it hurt. Felt like he was pulling a whole nose off. But I took it without a whimper. Well, maybe I whimpered a little bit, and we got her done. Loper rubbed me behind the ears. "There now, stay away from porcupines." He stood up and dusted off his jeans when he noticed the wet spot. His eyes came up, and they looked rather wrathful. "Did you do that?" I was well on my way to the tall timber when he threw the pliers at me. I couldn't help it. I didn't do it on purpose. The quills just got to hurting so bad that I had to let something go. Was it my fault he had his leg lock on me and he got in the way? Make one little mistake around this ranch, then they nail you to the wall. I laid low for a while, hid in the post pile and nursed my nose. It was about 10 o'clock when Sally Mae discovered the murdered hen. Tonight's story was a little bit shorter, I debated, but tomorrow night, Chapter 3, An Enormous Monster. Thanks for joining in, and be sure and catch us again tomorrow night for further adventures of the original adventures of Hank the Cowdog. Bye now.